Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. There's a woman out there, overlooked, underestimated, misunderstood, and yet she ain't asking for permission no more. She's been through the fire, but she didn't burn. She's been pushed to her knees, but didn't stay there. They tried to break her, silence her, erase her. But she ain't going nowhere because she's rising with faith in her heart and fire in her soul. And if you are that woman, or if you know that woman, don't you dare click away, because what I'm about to say might just wake something up inside you that the world tried to put to sleep. You didn't come this far just to survive. You came to rise. So sit tight. Let's talk about the woman the world tried to bury, but didn't know she was a seed. True beauty was never skin deep. It was never about flawless makeup, trending clothes, or how many likes she could pull with one picture. The world sold that lie, but deep down, she knew. Real power comes from within, from scars that healed in silence, from stories she never told, but carry weight in her eyes. She's not here to impress the crowd. She's here to impact lives. The truth is, inner beauty shines the loudest when nobody's looking. It's what she does when no one claps for her. It's how she carries herself when she has every reason to fall apart, but still shows up with dignity. That's the kind of beauty the world can't manufacture. That's what makes her different. She walks into the room and doesn't need to speak. Her energy announces her presence. There's grace in her silence, strength in her stillness, and a fire behind her calm eyes that says, "I've been through the storm, but I'm still standing." She doesn't rely on external validation. She validates herself every morning when she gets up, looks in the mirror, and decides, "I am enough." It wasn't always like this. She used to bend to be accepted. She used to water herself down just to fit in small spaces created by small minds. She would hide her intelligence, mute her brilliance, and shrink her soul just to be liked. But now she's done playing small because she realized that her worth isn't tied to someone else's comfort. And anyone who feels threatened by her light just isn't meant to walk in it. She was never weak. She was just untrained in her power. Life taught her. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the nights she cried herself to sleep, they taught her. And now she doesn't just survive. She glows. Her power comes from pain she refused to let define her. Her beauty is in how she lifts others when she's still trying to lift herself. How she listens when no one listens to her. How she encourages others while battling her own storms. She doesn't do it for applause. She does it because it's who she is. That's soul-deep beauty. That's the kind of woman who leaves fingerprints on hearts, not just impressions on timeline. People tried to box her in. They tried to label her, told her to sit down, told her to be quiet, told her she was too much. But instead of shrinking, she expanded. She outgrew their labels. She unlearned their limits. Now she knows being too much just means she was meant for more. Her presence now commands respect without demanding it. You feel it in how she walks, how she talks, how she holds eye contact, like she's reading your soul. She's not loud, but she's not afraid to speak truth. She's not confrontational, but she's not afraid of confrontation. That's what inner beauty looks like. It's calm, but it's bold. It's soft, but it's solid. It's loving, but it doesn't tolerate nonsense. A lot of people dress up the outside hoping no one notices the mess within, but not her. She worked on herself from the inside out. She learned how to love herself in her rawest form, flaws, scars, and all. She doesn't just wear confidence like a jacket. She became it. She earned it through the grind, through the isolation, through the lonely seasons where she had no one to lean on but herself. People think she's lucky. Nah, she's focused. People think she has it easy. Nah, she's just disciplined. What you're looking at is a woman who fought private battles you'll never see, and she still chose to rise with grace. That's not luck. That's inner strength. When others judged her past, she focused on her purpose. When others spread gossip, she planted seeds. While they were talking, she was building. While they were laughing, she was learning. And now she's walking into rooms that used to intimidate her, owning the space, not asking to be seen, but being undeniable. You know what makes her truly gorgeous? The fact that she's been knocked down more times than she can count, but every single time she got back up, and each time she rose wiser, stronger, braver, not bitter, but better. That's not just a glow up. That's transformation. That's evolution. And let's talk about how she carries herself. She don't chase trends. She sets standards. She don't compete with other women. She celebrates them because she knows who she is. And when you know who you are, there's no need for comparison. That's inner beauty. That's real self-worth. That's fire wrapped in elegance. She's not moved by compliments anymore. They're nice, but they don't shape her. Her value doesn't rise or fall based on someone's opinion. She knows that applause fades, crowds disappear, but character, that stays. That's what she builds on. That's what she leans into. And here's what people can't figure out, how she keeps glowing in a world trying to dim her light. The answer? She's fueled by something deeper. She's not chasing clout. She's chasing purpose. She's not addicted to attention. She's addicted to alignment. She doesn't just want to look good. She wants to feel whole. So the next time you see her walking tall, smiling like she knows a secret, know this: she earned that smile. She fought for it. She bled for it. And no one, absolutely no one, can take that away from her. Because she's gorgeous, not by the world's definition, but by a higher standard. The kind of beauty that doesn't fade, wrinkle, or age. The kind that grows stronger the more life tries to shake it. The kind of beauty that rises, not just with elegance, but with faith and fire. She didn't just wake up one day with fire in her soul and faith in her bones. No, that kind of strength is earned, built, hammered in the quiet corners of life where no one claps, no one sees, and no one helps. It's developed in the dark, when everything around her is falling apart, and she still stands, barefoot, bruised, but breathing. That's where the real woman is born. The fire inside her? It wasn't handed to her. It came from walking through flames that were meant to destroy her. But instead of burning out, she burned brighter. She didn't crumble. She cooked in that heat. She transformed. That fire you see in her eyes, that confidence in her step, that unshakable calm in her spirit, that was forged in moments she thought would break her. But they didn't. They built her. And faith? That didn't come easy either. Faith grew in silence, in isolation, in seasons when nothing made sense, but she kept showing up. She kept moving even when her feet were tired and her heart was heavy. She kept trusting the process. Even when the path was unclear, she didn't need to see the whole staircase. She just needed the courage to take the next step. That's faith. Not loud, not flashy, just consistent. See, people want the results, but don't want the refining. They want the crown, but not the cross. But she knows there is no rising without falling, no strength without struggle, no beauty without ashes. She's been in rooms where she felt invisible. She's been in relationships where her love wasn't valued. She's poured into people who left her dry. And in all of it, she could have chosen bitterness. She could have become hard, cold, closed, but she didn't. Instead, she chose to rise. Not because it was easy, not because she felt ready, but because she refused to stay buried. She chose to believe there was more to her story than what others could see. And that belief, that whisper in her soul that said this is not the end, became her greatest weapon. Faith became her armor. Fire became her drive. She didn't wait for someone to rescue her. She became her own rescue. She stopped waiting for someone to see her value and started seeing it in herself. She stopped hoping someone would pick her and chose to pick herself. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. She realized she is not for everybody, and that's her power. Every time life told her no, she turned it into a new level. When they said she couldn't, she didn't argue. She just did. She learned to speak less and show more, to move in silence but strike with purpose. She became the kind of woman who doesn't need to prove anything, because everything about her proves itself. Her energy, her work ethic, her resilience, they speak louder than words ever could. The fire she carries isn't loud, but it's lasting. It's not the type that rages uncontrollably. It's focused, controlled, intentional. She's not here to impress. She's here to fulfill. That's the difference between someone chasing attention and someone chasing destiny. She knows the spotlight fades, but legacy doesn't. So she builds from within. She invests in her mind, her peace, her growth. She doesn't chase drama. She chases depth. When storms come, she doesn't panic. She prepares. She knows that pressure is not always punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. She understands that every delay has its purpose. Every setback has its seed. And even when she's doubted, misunderstood, or overlooked, she never lets it define her, because her identity isn't rooted in people, it's rooted in purpose. And let's talk about that purpose for a moment. She doesn't just wake up and go through the motions. She wakes up with intention, with clarity, with conviction. She knows her presence is powerful. Her words carry weight. Her actions ripple. She's not just existing, she's influencing. And not because she's trying to be seen, but because she knows the world needs more women who are grounded in truth and driven by vision. Her fire is also what sets boundaries. It's what says, I love you, but I won't shrink for you. It's what says, I forgive you, but you can't have access to me again. It's what draws the line between selflessness and self-sacrifice. That fire is fierce, but it's also wise. It doesn't destroy, it protects. It doesn't burn people, it warms those who respect it and keeps out those who don't. Her faith, on the other hand, is what keeps her soft. It's what helps her still believe in love even after betrayal. It's what lets her offer kindness in a cruel world. It's what keeps her hopeful when logic says, give up. Her faith is her fuel. It's what lets her rise again and again, no matter how many times she's knocked down. She doesn't rise because she's invincible. She rises because she's obedient to the fire within her, to the whisper that says, you're built for more. So when people ask how she does it, how she keeps going, how she keeps glowing, the answer is simple: fire and faith. One keeps her moving, the other keeps her anchored. One burns away the nonsense, the other plants her feet. She's not driven by fear anymore, she's led by fire. She's not guided by pain anymore, she's fueled by faith. And if you're watching her, wondering how you can get there too, understand this: she wasn't born different. She just stopped giving up. She kept rising even when it didn't feel good. She kept trusting even when it didn't look promising. She fought for her growth. She protected her peace. And she didn't let the world define her story. She defined it herself, with fire in her eyes and faith in her step. She doesn't need the crowd to understand her. She's not waiting on applause. She's not chasing validation. See, when a woman knows her worth, truly knows it, she stops performing for people who can't see it. She stops explaining herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She realizes something powerful, that not everyone deserves a front row seat to her life. And when that clarity sets in, she moves different. You'll notice it. She stops entertaining shallow conversations. She stops showing up where she's only tolerated. She starts guarding her energy like it's sacred, because it is. And when you've been drained enough times, when you've poured yourself empty into the wrong people, you finally learn peace is priceless. Attention can't replace alignment. And being surrounded doesn't always mean being supported. So she doesn't need a fan club. She doesn't need followers to feel like she's enough. Her confidence doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being aligned. She knows who she is. She's fought too many battles to let outside noise shake her core. When you've built yourself from the ground up, when your peace was earned in private, you're not easily rattled by public opinion. There's something sacred about a woman who no longer seeks approval. She starts living for real. She wears what she loves, not what trends say she should. She speaks truth, even if her voice trembles. She walks away from anything that costs her peace. She sets boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect her growth. And if someone doesn't understand that, she doesn't force it. She blesses them from a distance. This is where her power lives, in her refusal to be moved by noise, in her ability to stand still in storms, in her strength to say no without guilt. That kind of woman, she's dangerous. Not because she's reckless, but because she's clear. She's not trying to fit in. She's focused on rising. She doesn't gossip. She grows. She doesn't shrink. She shines. And even when the world tries to dim her light, she burns brighter. She's done performing, done with the masks, done pretending to be okay just to make others comfortable. Because for too long, she watered herself down to be digestible. She silenced her voice to avoid confrontation. She hid her brilliance so others wouldn't feel small. But no more. Now, she knows. Dimming her light doesn't help anyone. Playing small doesn't make her humble. It makes her invisible. And she wasn't born to disappear. She was born to stand tall, speak boldly, love deeply, and live freely. She's no longer afraid of outgrowing people, places, or patterns. She understands that elevation requires separation. Not everyone will go with her. Not everyone should. And that's okay. The right ones won't fear her light. They'll fuel it. You want to know what makes her unstoppable? She's self-approved. She doesn't need your confirmation to walk in her calling. She's not waiting on someone to tell her she's good enough. She already knows it. She stopped looking for love in empty places. She gives it to herself first. She's not bitter. She's better because she's healed. Better because she's aware. Better because she learned the hard way what happens when you forget who you are, trying to please people who don't even know who they are. She prioritizes her peace. She invests in her mind. She builds her spirit. And she's not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't honor her. Because here's the truth. Not everyone will clap for your growth. Not everyone will understand your standards. But she doesn't shrink for comfort anymore. She expands for purpose. She's the kind of woman who walks in silence, but her presence is loud. Not because she demands attention, but because she commands respect. There's something about a woman who doesn't flinch when she's doubted, who doesn't crumble when she's criticized. She doesn't need to argue with fools. Her life speaks. Her peace proves it. When you know your worth, you stop begging people to treat you right. You stop hoping they'll see your value. You know your value. And that knowing changes everything. She doesn't chase anymore. She attracts. She doesn't compete. She creates. And if someone can't handle her standards, she doesn't lower them. She lets them go. Because the woman she is now, she had to fight to become her. She had to walk away from what broke her. She had to rebuild herself from pieces. She had to sit in silence until her soul made sense again. She had to look in the mirror and decide, I'm done performing. I'm done pretending. I'm done explaining. She walks in peace, in purpose, in power. And that scares people who are used to the old version of her, the one who said yes too much, who settled too often, who tolerated too many half-loves and hollow friendships. That version of her is gone, buried, and in her place stands a woman who no longer lives to be understood, but to be free. Because freedom, that's the goal. Not fame, not followers, not likes. Freedom. To speak, to move, to create, to heal, to rise. She knows she was never meant to be small, and now she lives like it. She leads herself. She trusts herself. She honors herself. She doesn't need the crowd to understand her because she finally understands herself. And that's more powerful than any approval this world could ever offer. She's been through the fire, the kind of fire that doesn't just burn, it purifies. It strips away illusions, removes the fake layers, and forces her to face the truth of who she is. But here's the miracle. She didn't just survive it. She rose from it. Not weaker, not bitter, but forged in strength. And when a woman rises from fire, she carries a glow no darkness can dim. Pressure reveals what's real. Pain shows you what's permanent. And storms don't just come to shake you, they come to shape you. She's learned this not from books or secondhand wisdom, but from life itself. From betrayal, from heartbreak, from being overlooked, underestimated, and misunderstood. But the beauty in all of it, it didn't break her. At first, she questioned everything. Why me? Why this? Why now? But the deeper she went into the valley, the clearer she began to see. The fire wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The breakdowns weren't setbacks, they were setups. And every time she thought she was buried, she was actually being planted. And now, she's blooming in places people thought she wouldn't survive. This kind of rise isn't pretty. It's not glamorous. It's messy, it's lonely, it's silent, it's crying in rooms no one knows about. It's choosing to get up when your soul tells you to lay down. It's pushing forward when your heart feels broken. That's the kind of strength the fire gave her. Unshakable, undeniable, She doesn't talk about it often, but if you listen closely, you can hear it in her presence. There's a steadiness about her now. A calm fire in her eyes. A confidence that doesn't need to boast. She walks like someone who knows pain personally, but refused to marry it. Someone who met defeat and turned it into discipline. You know what makes her rise so sacred? It was done in silence. No audience. No applause. Just her and her faith. Just her and the fight in her spirit. When no one checked in, she kept going. When no one clapped, she kept building. When no one believed, she kept rising. That's why her glow is different. It's not filtered. It's not borrowed. It's earned. Some people only shine when others see them, but not her. She shines in solitude. She knows the value of quiet transformation. She knows real growth doesn't scream, it whispers. It works in the dark, and that's where she found herself, not on stages, but in stillness. That's where the fire reshaped her, not in front of people, but in front of pain. And in that pain, she discovered something eternal, her identity. So many tried to define her by what she went through, tried to label her by her past. But she's not her trauma. She's not her mistakes. She's not her scars. She's the woman who rose from all of it, with fire in her eyes and grace in her steps. She's the proof that what was meant to destroy her only refined her. And now, She doesn't need to convince anyone of her worth. She embodies it. There's a certain fire in women who've healed themselves, a quiet dignity, a solid resolve, a refusal to go backward. And she carries that now. She's no longer afraid of breaking because she knows how to rebuild. She's no longer afraid of being alone because she met herself in the silence. And she's no longer seeking to be saved. She learned to save herself. And what's even more powerful, she didn't lose her heart in the process. She still loves deeply. She still believes. She still gives. But now, she gives from a place of wholeness. Now, she's not pouring out to be seen. She's not overextending to be accepted. She gives because that's who she is, not because she's trying to prove something. The fire taught her boundaries. It taught her discernment. It taught her to listen, not just to others, but to herself. She can feel when something's off. She can sense when something's not for her. She doesn't force anything anymore. What doesn't flow, she lets go. That's what happens when you've come through the fire. You stop playing with what drains you. She's walking proof of what happens when a woman refuses to give up on herself. She's not arrogant. She's aware. Aware of what it cost her to rise. Aware of who stayed and who left. Aware of the strength it took to stand back up when everything inside her said, stay down. And with that awareness, she lives differently. She doesn't waste time anymore. Doesn't beg for love. Doesn't chase what's not meant. She's learned that everything meant for her will meet her. Not when she's perfect, but when she's aligned. So she focuses on her alignment now, on her healing, on her peace. Because she knows if she protects her spirit, everything else will fall into place. This is what makes her glow so divine. It's not just fire, it's faith. It's not just passion, it's purpose. And every step she takes now is intentional. Every move is rooted. Every yes is deliberate. She no longer acts from pressure, she moves from power. Her pace is different because her peace is intact. And if you ask her how she did it, she won't give you some easy answer. She'll tell you it was the fire, the isolation, the silent battles, the night she thought she couldn't make it. That's what made her. That's what molded her. That's what gave her this kind of presence. The kind that doesn't have to announce itself to be felt. So the next time you see a woman walking with quiet confidence, don't ask what she does, ask what she's been through. Because that fire, that rise, that glow, it wasn't gifted, it was earned. She doesn't chase validation anymore. Not because she doesn't care, but because she finally realized something powerful. Her worth was never supposed to be determined by someone else's opinion. For too long, she gave away her power, waiting for people to approve her, applaud her, or even just acknowledge her existence. But that season is over. Now she walks in a quiet confidence, a solid truth. She doesn't need to be liked, followed, or praised to know that she matters. This shift didn't happen overnight. It came after years of trying to fit into rooms that were too small for her spirit. She played the part, smiled when she was crumbling, bent to please others while her own needs were silenced, all in hopes that someone would say, "You're enough." But the truth is, no one can give you what you refuse to give yourself. And so she turned inward. She stopped begging the world for permission and started giving herself authority. What she discovered in that silence was life-changing. She found out she was already complete, already chosen, already loved, not because someone told her, but because she started seeing it with her own eyes. And when a woman starts seeing herself clearly, she becomes unstoppable. When she no longer needs the noise to feel valuable, her spirit gets louder. Her presence deepens. Her peace expands. Now she speaks less and listens more, not because she's timid, but because she's tuned in. She doesn't need to dominate a room, she is the room. There's a stillness in her that makes people pause, a calm that says, I know who I am. She's not moved by every opinion, she's not shaken by rejection. She doesn't run after what walks away because she understands something most people miss. Not everything lost was meant to stay. When she loved from emptiness, she overextended. She tried to prove her love by giving parts of herself that should have never been on the table. But now, she gives from wholeness, from fullness. She's not chasing love, she is love. And because she knows that, she's not afraid to walk alone. Solitude no longer scares her, it strengthens her. The woman she is today doesn't shrink in the face of disapproval. In fact, she welcomes it because she knows the more aligned she becomes, the more people will misunderstand her. And that's okay. She'd rather be misunderstood in truth than accepted in a lie. She no longer wears masks to make others comfortable. She shows up as she is, raw, real, radiant. When a woman stops chasing validation, she becomes dangerous in the best way. Because now her energy isn't wasted trying to win people over. It's focused on building, creating, healing, evolving. She moves with intention. She lives with boundaries. She speaks with clarity. And the ones who can't handle that, they're not her people. And she's finally okay with that. There was a time when silence felt like punishment, when not being invited stung, when not being chosen made her question her value. But now, she sees it for what it really is: redirection, protection, elevation. She's learned that rejection is not a mirror of her worth, but a rerouting of her journey. So she doesn't force anything. What's meant for her will meet her where she's at, not where she pretends to be. She's no longer impressed by shallow applause or temporary attention. She wants depth, truth, soul. She's building a life that doesn't just look good, it feels good. A life that's aligned with her values, her calling, her essence. And to do that, she had to let go of needing everyone to understand her path. Some people only love the version of you that they can control. And she broke free from that a long time ago. This freedom. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's quiet, it's internal. But it radiates. You can feel it when she walks in. You can see it in her choices, in the way she protects her peace, in how she no longer over-explains or over-apologizes. She knows that clarity doesn't need defending. She's not seeking attention. She's living in alignment, and that alignment is what lights her up. What makes her rise so beautiful is that it's not tied to anyone's approval. She wakes up with purpose, not because someone gave her a platform, but because she became one. She doesn't need titles, doesn't need followers, doesn't need a spotlight. Her light is internal, and it can't be dimmed. She's the kind of woman who inspires, not by shouting, but by shining. Who influences not by performing, but by being. Who uplifts not by trying to be everything for everyone, but by being everything to herself. That's what not chasing validation looks like. And here's the thing, she's still growing, still learning, still healing. But even in that process, she refuses to bend her identity for acceptance. She's not looking to be seen, she's looking to see clearly, to see herself, to see her path, to see her purpose. And as long as she sees that, she's good. The world will always try to pull her back into the cycle, to make her seek approval, to make her doubt her enoughness, to make her crave applause. But she's tasted freedom now. She's seen what it's like to live for something deeper. And once you've touched that kind of truth, you don't go back. So if you see her quiet, don't mistake it for weakness. If she doesn't respond, don't assume she's lost. If she walks away, don't think she's giving up. She's choosing her peace. She's protecting her energy. And she's pouring her time into people and places that don't require her to shrink. She's not chasing value.